Remember just a few years ago when AI promised this incredible world of infinite content all at the push of a button? It really felt like a gold rush. But, well, like every gold rush, it was followed by a pretty big bust. So today, we're going to dig into that boom, the inevitable correction, and the winning strategy that actually emerged from the rubble to create real, lasting value. So, how do we make sense of what happened? We're going to use a pretty simple but powerful framework. It's all based on this idea that every huge trend, what we'll call a thesis, eventually runs into its own limitations and creates a counterreaction. And understanding that pushback, that's the real key to seeing what's coming next. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to break this down into 5 parts. We'll start with that initial AI thesis, then walk through the market's great correction, understand the antithesis that popped up in response, see how a new synthesis was forged, and finally get into the nuts and bolts of the new winning workflow. Okay, let's start at the very beginning with the AI content thesis. This was the big bang, right? The moment when all these AI tools exploded onto the scene, promising to completely change how we create, well, everything. The story really starts with this simple, incredibly seductive promise. What if you could create anything you wanted, instantly? We're talking blog posts, marketing copy, social media graphics, even videos, all just generated in seconds. The market was absolutely flooded with tools that made it seem like content creation was a solved problem. And it's amazing how quickly AI went from being a novelty to just a standard feature. By 2025, if you looked at major platforms like these, they all had a full suite of AI tools baked right in. It wasn't just a cool feature anymore. It was table stakes. This was the thesis in action. Just automate everything. And the tools themselves were seriously powerful. They could do everything from writing entire articles to editing your images with a single click. Heck, even voiceovers, just like this one, could be generated in an instant. The whole game was about speed and scale. Output was king. But that relentless focus on just speed and scale, well, it had a massive blind spot. And that brings us to our second act, the great correction. This is the moment when the market decided to push back, and push back hard. The big turning point came in December 2025. And it wasn't a new competitor or some fancy new tech. Nope. It was a core update from Google. And listen, this was not some minor algorithm tweak. It was a fundamental shift in how the internet's biggest gatekeeper looked at content. And boy, did it expose the critical flaw in that whole more is better model. Just let this number sink in for a second. 85 to 95%. That was the average traffic loss for websites that were just pumping out unedited, mass-produced AI content. This wasn't a slap on the wrist. It was an extinction-level event. Entire businesses built on pure automation got wiped out practically overnight. Now, the damage wasn't random at all. It was super concentrated in industries where trust is absolutely non-negotiable. Affiliate sites, health and medical content, what Google calls your money or your life, and e-commerce sites got hit the absolute hardest. These were the exact places where generic, low-expertise content was doing the most harm to users. So a new line in the sand was drawn, and it became crystal clear. On one side, you had the stuff that got penalized into oblivion. Unedited AI output, no human fact-checking, just generic content blasted out. But on the other side, you have the model that started succeeding. A real expert guiding the AI, adding their own unique insights, verifying everything, and actually focusing on helping the user. You see, this market correction wasn't just a technical update. It was really a philosophical shift. And it sparked the birth of the antithesis, that inevitable counter-reaction we were talking about. And here is the because of that moment in our story. Because the Great Correction happened, the entire industry had this massive wake-up call. They realized the bottleneck to success was no longer the speed of creation. The new bottlenecks? They were trust, authenticity, and real, demonstrable human experience. So what exactly is this antithesis? It's not just about being negative or afraid of new tech. Think of it as a necessary market force, like an immune system response. It emerges directly from the weaknesses of the original big idea. It's the market stepping in to correct for all the things the initial hype ignored. In this case, the immense value of human nuance and expertise. And these were the blind spots that made that correction absolutely inevitable. The original thesis was so optimized for speed that it completely ignored human nuance. It promised to democratize creativity, but actually ended up concentrating power with just a few big companies. It rewarded flashy demos over systems that were actually robust and secure. These weren't just small flaws, they were systemic risks just waiting to blow up. So, if the thesis was all about pure automation and the antithesis was this huge demand for human value, what comes next? Well, the solution, of course, was to combine them. And that is Act 4, Forging the Synthesis. The synthesis is the resolution to the conflict. It's not about choosing between AI's scale and human value. It's about creating a powerful new model where the two actually work together. The future isn't AI or humans, it's AI and humans, with each side doing what it does best. And this new model has some pretty clear rules. These are the four critical success factors that emerged from the chaos. First, you absolutely need expert oversight. Second, the goal has to be creating original new value, not just rehashing old info. Third, accuracy verification is completely non-negotiable. And fourth, everything, and I mean everything, has to be driven by genuine value for the user, not just trying to game an algorithm. And this shows you exactly how the algorithms themselves adapted. They literally started looking for the fingerprints of human experience. Phrases like, in my testing, or after 3 months of use, or I found that. Those became powerful signals of authenticity that purely automated content just could not fake. So, let's bring this all together. Let's look at what this new winning workflow actually looks like in practice. How do you actually put this synthesis to work? Here is a perfect example. You start by using AI for its superpower, processing just enormous amounts of data, like thousands of survey results. Then, a human expert steps in to do what humans do best: interpret those findings and pull out the crucial insights, the story in the data. Finally, you can use AI again to create compelling, interactive charts and visualizations. The result is a piece of unique analysis that neither the human nor the AI could have possibly created alone. I mean, the difference is just stark. The old, failing workflow was a simple, linear handoff. AI generates something, and a non-expert publishes it. The new, successful workflow is a collaborative loop. An expert identifies a user need, uses AI as a tool to build something, and then adds that crucial layer of review, guidance, and value. It's a whole different ballgame. And so our story finds its resolution. After all the hype and the inevitable crash, this new model, AI-assisted but fundamentally human-led, emerged as the only sustainable path forward. It perfectly combines the scale of the machine with the wisdom and trust of an expert. This really leaves us with a final, much more powerful question. We've moved past that initial phase of just being in awe of the technology. The conversation is no longer just about what can AI do on its own. The much more exciting challenge, and really the one that's going to define the next decade, is figuring out what amazing new things we can create together